the disc itself, if you look at it, if I took two bones out of your low back, the lumbar spine, if you look at the spine, the spine's made of blocks of bone. One bone stacked on another, stacked on another. There's 26 of them in our body. In between the bones are where the discs are located. The disc is a cushion or shock absorber that's located in between the bone. The other cool thing the disc does, if you look at the back part of the spine, the thicker this disc is, the bigger the opening where the nerves come out of the spine. And of course, the nerves that come out of the lower part of the back go into hip, legs, buttock, and all the way down into the feet. That's why we find a lot of patients that have disc problems, a lot of times will have pain, tingling, numbness, burning. Any place the nerve goes that exits the spine, that might be compressed by a disc. So you can have a lot of different kinds of symptoms. The disc itself is made of two parts. The outer part, there are 17 layers of cartilage that makes up the outer part of this disc. And it's a very tough cartilage. It's kind of like the cartilage that's in your knees. But there are 7 different layers, and the layers of this disc are kind of interlaced like this to make it even tougher and stronger. Because it's always under a lot of stress, the discs are. The center part of the disc it acts like a gel-like material. But when the disc is good, strong, and healthy, it's young, it's nice, it has a nice thickness to it. It acts like a ball bearing. It's the major weight-bearing part of the disc. Strong, tough, and do a lot of great things. But what can happen with age? What can happen with injury? What can happen with trauma? What can happen with poor nutrition? The disc itself can sometimes develop small cracks or tears in these tough outer rings. And when these outer rings start to tear, the center part of the disc, which is kind of like a gel-like material, can sometimes squeeze in through the cracks. And when it squeezes in through the cracks, sometimes what it does, it can cause the disc to want to bulge out or protrude, or it can cause it to herniate. But what it does, it can press or compress the nerve or pinch the nerve in the back, going down into the legs. Okay? Because of that, when the disc itself, the outer parts actually get weak, it's kind of like if you had a jelly donut. I laid a jelly donut on the table, and I would hit it on one side. All the jelly would squirt to one side. Have you ever done that? Took a bite of a jelly donut, and the jelly squeezes out the back end of it. Well, the same thing happens with these discs. So if I have a patient that's had a back injury, has had multiple injuries, maybe they're getting older, maybe they've fallen off the stool in the garage, what happens is they develop these little cracks or tears, and the disc itself begins to shift and move. Well, what happens, sometimes the disc can actually herniate. And when that happens, sometimes patients go see surgeons. What the surgeon does, basically cuts a small window out of the bone in the back part of the spine. They go in and remove all the herniated or bulged material in the disc, but also go in and try to clean out all the other disc material in the center part of the disc. The problem with that, over about a period of time, 2 to 5 years after that, the disc itself collapses. And what happens, it starts causing premature arthritis to take place in the spine, which is what all these bumpy spurs are, in the front and back part of the spine. But also, the disc itself starts to get very thin versus very thick, like we see in a healthy disc, very thin in an injured disc when they pull that material out. So what we try to do is decompression, but even the adjustment, the chiropractic adjustment does this as well, to some degree. We take advantage of something that's like a vacuum phenomenon that takes place within the disc itself. There are different hydrostatic pressures within that disc. And if you think about a vacuum, if we're able to do something, we're able to actually open up the disc spaces like decompression might do. Because of this vacuum kind of an effect, I'm overly simplifying this, it actually can cause the herniated or bulged material to suck back into the center again. Because of this pumping kind of emotion, it actually lets it suck back into the center. And then with multiple treatments, with the proper nutritional supplements and nutrition, you actually can do some things to actually get this to heal without this disc being bulged or protruded.
Does that show up on x-rays?
On x-ray, you can, on x-ray, you can see if the disc is thin or degenerated. You can see the space where it lives to see if it's thin or degenerated. But to see the herniation itself, probably not. One thing we do see on x-ray with patients, if they have a big bulge or protrusion or herniation in a disc, a lot of times on the x-ray, the bone will look like this.
Oh, okay.
So we can, from that, extrapolate, well, maybe there is some disc bulge or protrusion, correlate that with the exam findings, and we can be pretty sure that we probably are dealing with a disc problem. But the really only way to really see that well is, is an MRI. And secondarily, maybe a CAT scan. So all the decompression does, it just moves the joints back and forth like this.